All over the world, there are various houses you can get. Simple houses, multi-story houses, farms, the works. But for some people, the dream is to live in a big and expensive mansion. One that they can lounge about in and put all sorts of things in and not worry about anything. What if I told you there were plenty of mansions out there that you at home could afford? The catch? You really don't want them. Allow us to show you 10 famous mansions that no one will buy. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Number 10. 50 Cent Mansion. Despite what the name might suggest, this is not a house named for its value, but rather a mansion owned by famous rapper 50 Cent. Found in Farmington, Connecticut, the mansion itself went onto the market in 2015, and 50 Cent put it on sale for a whopping $18.5 million. Then, when he had bankruptcy issues, he lowered it to $8.5 million, then under $6 million, where it's been since that drop. But why wouldn't anyone want it? Did 50 Cent trash the place? No, not even close. The main issue is the amount of things inside the mansion. 21 bedrooms, 25 bathrooms, an indoor pool and hot tub, a substantial nightclub, an indoor court, multiple game rooms, a green screen room, a recording studio. Eccentric doesn't even begin to describe that. Why would anyone want that many bedrooms and bathrooms in one mansion? Plus, the upkeep must be murder. So yeah, no one is buying this anytime soon. Number 9. Granite Loma. You rarely hear the phrase log cabin mansion in the world today, but you'll find one on Lake Superior named Granite Loma. But it's not just a home. It's 5,000 acres of woodland that surrounds the house. If you're curious, the mansion has 23 bedrooms, 4 apartments in an outbuilding, a huge hot tub, and a private backwater marina as well. It was made by the co-founder of General Motors. It stands today as the biggest log cabin in the United States, yet it remains unsold. Easily the biggest reason was its price. It was listed for $40 million in 2015, and even now it's $20 million, which is still high, obviously. Anything else, you might be asking? Well, yes. The other major problem is that it's an incredibly remote log cabin mansion. So this is one that you'd use for getaways or to be isolated, but you can do that for a lot cheaper than $20 million. Number 8. Steve Cohen's mansion.
It's no surprise that Cohen's penthouse pad at the One Beacon Court Tower, as it's known on the Upper East Side, has jaw-dropping views. But what about that jaw-dropping price? $115 million. Wow is the word. Walls of windows, loft-like space, kind of like what he did to the...
Now we move on to the mansion of Steve Cohen. Technically, it's a penthouse duplex of sorts, but yeah, it's a mansion. One that has a price of $57.5 million. And that's after several price reductions. He once wanted 9 figures for the mansion. Gee, why couldn't he sell it for that price? But here's the real problem. It's really up in the sky. You could literally call this a sky mansion. Plus, while the place is spacious, it was kind of built for Cohen's tastes, which is why he has an art gallery, among other things. So yeah, it's high up. It's meant for a specific taste, and it's ridiculously expensive. Pass. Number 7. The Stone Sanctuary. Let's check out a mansion that is definitely not for those who have a certain view on how a mansion should look. The property is actually built on one owned by the Frick family, who are wealthy because of their steel business. But the house itself is made of stone in such a way that it kind of looks like an ancient castle. Not to mention that the layout of the mansion isn't one that is standard in most people's eyes. Granted, many people want to live in a castle in their fantasies, but this is a bit much, as is the price tag of $40 million. Number 6. The Halston Party Penthouse.
Luxury living to a new level.
This one is simply called the Stone Mansion, but as you're about to see, that is quite the understatement. Here's CBS 2's Emily Smith.
Behold the famous penthouse mansion known as the Halston Party Penthouse. That would be because of the designer and former owner of the space, Roy Halston Frowick. This penthouse was built in 1974 in Manhattan, New York by Frowick, who went by Halston solely when designing, and it was made to represent all the different styles of the time, which would be trendy if some weren't so, well, trashy. Let's just leave it at that, okay? It was also a big place for the stars of the nearby Studio 54 to come and have fun in. which ironically would lead to the death of Halston via AIDS. The apartment sold to a friend of his until 2011 when the penthouse mansion was put up for sale at $38.5 million. It now sits at $24 million and is still unsold. Would you want a mansion/penthouse that had all sorts of unmentionable things happen in it? We didn't think so. Number 5. Michael Jordan's mansion. This is indeed a mansion owned by the GOAT of the NBA, Michael Jordan.
Michael, get it pulled for the fresh shot clock. MJ. Oh, he did it! Michael shakes the finger. Jordan. Oh, a spectacular move by Michael.
But he can't sell it for a whole host of reasons. First off, it was built to Jordan's liking, complete with gates at the front that have 23 on them. It also has a workout room, home theater, and more. Plus, because it's in Chicago, you're going to have a reason to be in Chicago, which not everyone has. Some people actually avoid Chicago because of its crazy traffic, and I can't blame them for not wanting to be close to that. The price keeps fluctuating, and Jordan really wants to sell it, but he can't, and that's sad. You know, like his time with the Wizards. Zing! Number 4. The Lewis Mansion. This mansion right here is well crafted. It has much historical significance, it's in a good neighborhood, and even is on a street called Pleasant Avenue. So if you're looking to buy this mansion in Bayside, Long Island, you're going to get a heck of a deal, for the mansion is only $10. Where's the catch? Oh, it's coming. You see, this house used to be owned by a famous athlete turned FBI agent, Aubrey Lewis. When he passed, the county bought the house so they could do some expansion by tearing it down and making 8 new houses in the area. But a historical society stepped in and made them promise not to keep the house. They agreed to the terms, which therein lies the problem. Because that deal was made, another deal was made for the land, so that whoever truly owns the house is actually required to move the whole house off the property, because they technically don't own it. That's a crazy clause, and thus, it's still there. Number 3. S.K. Pierce Mansion. Now we move on to the S.K. Pierce Mansion in New England, Massachusetts, where it's only $329,000. Given that it's got 10 plus rooms, 3 bathrooms, and more, it's actually dirt cheap for a mansion. But because it's considered one of the most haunted places in New England, it's not listed as a desirable place to live. The story goes that in 1875, when the mansion was built, 7 people were killed in the house, including a few confirmed murders. Would you want to live in a place like that? Especially one that has a bunch of spirits apparently still around? We didn't think so. People have said to have seen fallen servants, children, and more roaming through the place even though none lived there. So get this mansion at your own peril. Number 2. The Watcher Mansion.
We have reported on here before, and the disturbing letters sent to the family who bought it. The family bought their dream home in New Jersey, never moving in after getting frightening letters from someone calling themselves the Watcher.
There is a small twist in the tale of the Watcher Mansion, and that is that as of July 2019, the mansion was indeed sold. But there was a reason, and may still be a reason, why no one would ever buy it beforehand, and why it may go up for sale once again soon. Trust us, this is a story you won't believe is real, but it is. You'll find this mansion in Westfield, New Jersey, and in 2014, it was bought by Derek and Maria Broaddus. When they got to the house, however, they got a letter via The Watcher. 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I've been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming, the first letter read. As shared in a report in New York Magazine, my grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It's now my time. More letters came, including ones talking about the children that the two had. Because of this, they never officially moved into the house. Instead, they put it back on the market. But by that time, the story of the Watcher had already gone viral in the media. So thus, a lot of people weren't really eager to try and get the house for themselves. But that raises many questions. Who was the Watcher? Was any of his story true? And does this mean that the new owners are going to have to be watching their own backs for a while? We may find out soon. Number 1. Winchester Mansion.
You're going to see unusual things like this. There's architecture, there's incredible craftsmanship. It's a very unique house.
Some people believe that these were Sarah's methods for dealing with unfriendly ghosts, baffling the spirits. We don't really know. After 36 years of remodeling, maybe these are just a few of her building mistakes.
If the name Winchester sounds familiar, that's because it should. The name started with a man, and then that man made a rifle. A rifle that would change the course of history in more ways than one, not the least of which was redefining the Wild West. The man made a fortune because of that rifle and more that came from his name, which would be the end of the story most times. But this is actually the story of his wife, Sarah. She was told by a fortune teller that the guns that her husband was making and getting a fortune from were going to curse her, mainly by having her be haunted by the spirits of the people that were being killed by them. Afraid that this could happen, she used her fortune from her husband to make a mansion so vast and so full of rooms, doors, windows, and more that no spirit that came after her would be able to find her. Sarah actually died soon after it was completed. Technically, the house is owned by someone, but not to live in. Rather, it's used as a tourist destination, one that you can honestly visit yourself. But be careful if you do, because there are some who say that the mansion really is haunted. So, what do you think? What do you think of these mansions that appear to be nice but have secrets that keep them from being sold? Which mansion would you personally risk living in and owning? Do you know another that should be on this list? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.